To understand the silence of the snow, we must first ascend. We must leave the heavy, noisy gravity of the earth behind. We must rise above the cities, above the forests, above the highest peaks of the mountains, until we reach a place where the air is thin, crisp, and overwhelmingly blue. Welcome to the troposphere. This is the canvas upon which the winter writes its masterpieces. Here, miles above the ground, the world is not measured in minutes or hours, but in temperature and pressure. It is a vast, empty cathedral of the sky. To the human eye, it appears to be a void, a limitless expanse of nothingness. But to the wise observer, this emptiness is teeming with potential. It is a loom, waiting for the thread. It is quiet here. The winds that rage near the surface are often smoother, cleaner currents at this altitude. They flow like great rivers of air, circumnavigating the globe, carrying the unseen ingredients of a storm. Let us float here for a moment. Suspend yourself in this high, cold blue. The first thing you notice is the cold. It is not the biting, aggressive cold of a windy street corner. It is a pure, absolute cold. It is a stillness that penetrates. It is the kind of cold that demands order from chaos. In this vastness, there floats a ghost. It is invisible to the naked eye, drifting aimlessly on the currents. This ghost is water vapor. The breath of the sky. Water vapor is the spirit of the ocean, the lake, and the river. It is the breath of the forest and the dampness of the soil, evaporated by the sun and sent rising into the heavens. Down below, water is heavy, it crashes and flows. But up here, water has been liberated from its weight. It exists as a gas, billions upon billions of molecules, dancing freely, untethered and wild. Imagine these molecules. They are energetic little dancers, spinning and vibrating, keeping their distance from one another. They are fiercely independent. As long as they remain warm, they refuse to hold hands. They bounce off one another, filling the sky with invisible humidity. But the sky is changing. The sun is tilting away from this hemisphere. The currents are shifting. The temperature is dropping. Watch what happens as the breath of the sky begins to cool. As the heat leaves the atmosphere, the energy within these water molecules begins to fade. The frantic dancing slows down. The vibrations lessen. The molecules become sluggish, like hikers tired after a long journey. They no longer bounce off one another with such force. They begin to drift closer, lingering in the spaces between the winds. This is the atmosphere reaching its saturation point. The air is becoming heavy with water, pregnant with the possibility of precipitation. But, and this is the great secret of the snow, cold alone is not enough. You can cool pure water vapor down to 40 degrees below zero, and it will still not freeze. It will remain in a state known as supercooled water. It is a suspended animation, a liquid waiting for a reason to become solid. It is a choir waiting for a conductor. It is a story waiting for a pen. Without an anchor, the water cannot settle. It needs a seed. It needs a partner. The speck of dust. And so, we witness the arrival of the most unlikely hero in our story. It is not a diamond, nor a rare metal. It is a speck of dirt. Science calls it an ice nucleus. Poetically, we might call it the celestial guest. These tiny particles have traveled thousands of miles to be here. Perhaps it is a microscopic grain of clay swept up from a desert in Africa. Perhaps it is a particle of volcanic ash from an eruption in Iceland. Perhaps it is a trace of pollen from a pine forest in Canada, or even a microscopic bit of stardust that has drifted down from the cosmos. They are incredibly small, often less than 1/100th of a millimeter in width. To the human eye, they are invisible. But in the grand architecture of the atmosphere, they are the foundation stones of winter. Let us visualize a single speck of dust drifting into a cloud of supercooled water vapor. It floats silently, tumbling through the blue void. It is rough, jagged, and imperfect. But its surface offers something the water molecules have been desperate for, a place to land. As the dust particle enters the cloud, a single water molecule, tired and cold, brushes against it. Touch. It sticks. The roughness of the dust provides a surface for the molecule to cling to. Then, another molecule arrives. And another. They gather around this tiny speck of dirt like travelers gathering around a hearth fire in a blizzard. They are no longer flying freely through the sky, they are anchoring themselves. This is the miracle of nucleation. It is a moment of profound transformation. In a fraction of a second, the chaos of the gas collapses into the order of the solid. The water molecules surrender their freedom for the sake of structure. They stop moving. They lock into place. The ghost has become a body. The vapor has become a crystal. It is a humbling thought, every beautiful, pristine white blanket of snow you have ever seen, covering mountains and cities in pure elegance, owes its existence to dirt. At the heart of every snowflake is a tiny imperfection, a piece of the earth that rose up to the sky to bring the water back down. The first hexagon. Now that the water has found its anchor, the true magic begins. We move from the physics of attraction to the geometry of beauty. Why, of all the shapes in the universe, does the snow choose the hexagon? Why 6 sides? Why not a square, or a triangle, or a circle? The answer lies in the very nature of water itself. It is a conversation between oxygen and hydrogen. Each water molecule looks a bit like a tiny distinct shape, one large oxygen atom holding hands with 2 smaller hydrogen atoms. When these molecules freeze, they are compelled by the laws of chemistry to arrange themselves in a very specific way to maximize their stability. They want to be as comfortable as possible. Imagine a group of people in a room, trying to hold hands in a circle where everyone is equally spaced and comfortable. For water molecules, the most comfortable angle, the angle that requires the least amount of energy to maintain, is exactly 120 degrees. When you connect objects at 120-degree angles, you inevitably create a hexagon. So, around our tiny speck of dust, the molecules begin to arrange themselves. They are the master architects of the nanoworld. They snap into place with military precision. Snap. 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 6 molecules link together to form a ring. A perfect, microscopic hexagon. This is the seed crystal. It is the heart of the snowflake. It is incredibly small, visible only under the most powerful microscopes, but it dictates everything that is to come. It establishes the rule of 6. This rule will never be broken. No matter how large the snowflake grows, no matter how wild the winds blow, it will always obey this 6-sided symmetry. It is the first hexagon. In this high, silent atmosphere, floating miles above the earth, this tiny prism of ice is a jewel. It is transparent, like glass. It catches the light of the sun, which, up here, is blindingly white, and refracts it. If you were floating next to it, you would see it glitter like a diamond dust. It is solid now. It has weight. Gravity, which had ignored the water vapor, now notices the ice. The crystal begins to feel a gentle pull. It is the earth calling it home. But it is not yet a snowflake. It is merely a prism. It is a simple, flat plate of ice, a hexagonal facet spinning in the cold air. To become the intricate, fern-like star we recognize, it must grow. It must travel. It must feed on the humidity of the clouds. The formation of this first hexagon is an act of defiance against entropy. The universe generally tends toward disorder, things break down, crumble, and scatter. But here, in the freezing cold, the universe is building something. It is taking the scattered chaos of vapor and weaving it into a lattice of perfect order. It is the celestial loom at work. Visualize billions of these events happening simultaneously across the horizon. It is not just one crystal, it is a galaxy of them. A silent explosion of geometry. All around the northern hemisphere, the sky is knitting itself together. The dust has met the water. The water has met the cold. The chaos has met the order. The first stage of the journey is complete. The crystal hangs there, suspended in the blue, a tiny, perfect witness to the silence of the upper atmosphere. It is waiting for the signal to fall. It is a lonely existence up here, but a peaceful one. There is no sound. There is no friction. There is only the slow, rhythmic addition of molecule upon molecule, widening the hexagon, strengthening the lattice, preparing for the long descent. We leave this chapter suspended in that stillness. We leave our protagonist, the tiny, hexagonal prism, floating in the breath of the sky, shimmering in the pale light, ready to begin the great migration from the heavens to the earth. The loom has woven the first thread. The tapestry has begun. Chapter 2, The Infinite Descent. The tiny, hexagonal jewel we watched form in the upper atmosphere is no longer stationary. It has grown heavy enough, just barely, to tip the scales of buoyancy. The invisible hand of gravity, faint but persistent, has reached up into the stratosphere and claimed it. The suspension is over. The great journey has begun. We are now entering the chapter of the fall. To the human observer standing on the ground, snow appears to descend from a flat gray ceiling. It looks like a curtain being lowered. But from the perspective of the crystal, this is not a ceiling, it is a vast, three-dimensional kingdom of vapor and air. It is a world of infinite gray. The clouds release. Let us begin at the moment of detachment. Imagine the cloud not as a solid object, but as a massive, floating nebula, a nursery of mist spanning miles across the sky. Inside this nebula, the air is thick with humidity and potential. For a long time, the crystal has drifted here, held aloft by updrafts, warm currents of air rising from the earth that act like invisible elevators, keeping the ice suspended against the pull of the earth. But as the crystal grows, adding molecule upon molecule to its lattice, extending its delicate arms, it gains mass. It becomes a microscopic burden to the air. There comes a specific, silent moment when the weight of the crystal overcomes the strength of the updraft. It is the moment of the cloud's release. It is a gentle surrender. There is no violence in it, no sudden drop. It is simply a shift in equilibrium. The crystal tilts, catches a new current, and begins to sink. It bids farewell to the birthing grounds of the upper atmosphere. Visualize this release happening not just to one crystal, but to quadrillions of them simultaneously. It is a mass exodus of silence. The cloud is loosening its grip. It is exhaling its children. As the crystal leaves the dense center of the cloud, the world around it changes. The blinding white light of the upper sun fades. The crystal sinks into the belly of the storm, where the light is diffused, soft, and shadowless. This is the gray. It is a color of profound neutrality. It is the color of peace. In the gray, there is no up or down, no east or west. There is only the sensation of movement. This descent is not a plummet. Rain plummets. Rain is heavy, spherical, and aerodynamic. It cuts through the air like a bullet, eager to hit the ground. Rain is in a hurry. But snow is different. Snow has no schedule. Drifting in the gray. Let us study the aerodynamics of this fall. It is a study in resistance. A snowflake is, essentially, a parachute made of ice. Because of its flat, hexagonal shape and its intricate, lace-like branches, which we will examine closer in the next chapter, it has a massive surface area relative to its incredibly light weight. When it falls, it catches the air. The air pushes back. This creates a phenomenon that scientists call flutter. The snowflake does not fall in a straight line. It rocks back and forth. It tips. It sways. It spirals. It is a leaf falling in autumn, but lighter, slower, and more graceful. Watch our single crystal as it descends through the gray void. It tips to the left, drift. It corrects itself. It tips to the right, drift. It is a conversation between the ice and the wind. The air is not empty space, it is a fluid, thicker than we imagine. The crystal rides the air currents like a surfer riding a slow-motion wave. This resistance slows the fall dramatically. A raindrop might race towards the earth at 20 miles per hour. A snowflake? It wanders earthward at perhaps 1 or 2 miles per hour. At this speed, the journey from the cloud to the ground is not a matter of minutes. It is a matter of hours. Think of that. The snowflake landing on your sleeve right now may have begun its fall while you were eating breakfast. It has been falling while you drove to work. It has been falling while you sat at your desk. It has been drifting in the gray, silent and alone, for miles of vertical space. This slow pace changes the nature of time within the storm. To fall so slowly is to exist in a state of meditation. The crystal passes through different layers of the atmosphere like a diver sinking into the deep ocean. It passes through a layer of dry air, where its edges sharpen. It passes through a layer of humid air, where it grows wider. It passes through a layer of crosswind, which sends it dancing sideways for a mile before it resumes its downward path. It is in no rush to reach the end. The descent is the purpose. As you visualize this, feel your own body relaxing into that same tempo. In a world that demands speed, the snowflake is a rebellion of slowness. It refuses to hurry. It trusts gravity to take it where it needs to go, eventually. There is no effort. There is only the drift. Sway and drop. Sway and drop. The air around the crystal is cold, crisp, and clean. It whistles softly through the open lattice of the ice arms. If you could shrink yourself down and ride on the back of this crystal, you would feel a sense of total weightlessness. You would see millions of other white specks in the distance, all engaged in the same slow, hypnotic dance. It is a parade of infinite white against infinite gray. A celestial curtain falling in slow motion. Collision and embrace. As we descend closer to the earth, perhaps a mile above the ground, the density of the snowfall increases. The crystals are no longer solitary travelers separated by vast distances. The traffic is getting heavier. The parade is getting crowded. This brings us to one of the most beautiful and misunderstood aspects of snow, the aggregate. When we look at a snowflake on our mitten, we are rarely looking at a single crystal. A single crystal is often too small to be seen clearly with the naked eye. The large, fluffy white flakes that we love, the ones that look like feathers or cotton balls, are actually clusters. They are communities. In the chaos of the fall, collisions are inevitable. Watch two crystals drifting near each other. They are caught in the same eddy of wind. They swirl closer. Closer. Touch. In the world of rain, when two drops collide, they merge into a bigger, faster drop. They lose their individuality. But snow is solid. Snow is structural. When two snowflakes collide, they do not merge. They entangle. The intricate arms of the dendrites act like nature's Velcro. The branch of one crystal hooks into the open space of another. They lock together. This is the embrace. It is a mechanical bond, but it is also a poetic one. The lonely traveler finds a companion. They hold on to each other. And then, a third crystal bumps into them and joins the cluster. Then a fourth. Soon, you have a tangled ball of 10, 20, or even 100 crystals clinging to one another. This changes the physics of the fall. The cluster is heavier. It falls slightly faster. It cuts through the wind with more authority. These are the large, goose feather, flakes that fall on quiet winter evenings. They are the result of 1,000 mid-air embraces. There is a profound tenderness in this image. The sky is cold, the wind is indifferent, but the snowflakes find strength in connection. They cling to one another as they face the final leg of the journey. Imagine the sound of this collision. It is silence meeting silence. A soft, microscopic click that no ear can hear. It is the sound of architecture interlocking. As these aggregates form, they create a texture in the air. The snowfall becomes thick and opaque. If you look up into the sky now, you cannot see the cloud anymore. You cannot see the sun. You can only see the chaotic, beautiful swirl of white clusters tumbling over one another. It is a mesmerizing chaos. It dizzies the eye. If you stare at it too long, you lose your balance. You feel as though you are the one rising, and the snow is standing still. This is the infinite descent. It feels infinite because the supply seems endless. The cloud above is vast, and the loom is still working. As the aggregates drop into the lower atmosphere, the last few thousand feet, the temperature might rise slightly. It is still freezing, but warmer than the upper stratosphere. This warmth makes the ice slightly sticky. The embraces become tighter. The clusters become larger. These are the wet snows that coat the trees and silence the cities. They are heavy with unity. We are nearing the ground now. The journey that started miles above, in the silent blue breath of the sky, is almost over. Look down. The earth is approaching. It is a patchwork of dark colors, the black of asphalt, the brown of dormant grass, the gray of slate roofs. The world below looks hard. It looks unforgiving. It is full of sharp edges and loud noises. The snowflakes are coming to soften it. They are bringing the message of the sky down to the ground. They are carrying the silence of the upper atmosphere in their pockets. The descent is the transition. It is the bridge between the heavens and the earth. And as we watch the final moments of the fall, we realize that the falling is not a tragedy. It is a gift. The snowflake does not die when it hits the ground, it arrives. It fulfills its purpose. But before we let them land, before we watch them pile up and transform the landscape, we must pause time. We must freeze the frame in midair. We need to look closer, much closer, at the individual travelers. We have seen how they move, now we must see who they are. We must take a magnifying glass to the falling gray and witness the impossible geometry of the ice. But for now, stay in the fall. Feel the sway. Feel the cool air rushing past. Feel the gentle bump of the neighbor crystal locking arms with you. You are floating. You are weightless. You are part of a billion-strong choir singing a song of white silence. Down, down, down. The air gets thicker. The sounds of the earth, a distant train, a barking dog, begin to drift up to meet you. But you are too many. You will drown them out. You will cover them. The infinite descent is the great silencer. It is the long, slow exhale of the planet. Breathe in the cold air. Watch the gray sky churn with white specks. There is no rush. There is only the fall. And the fall is beautiful. Chapter 3, The Architecture of Cold. We have watched the birth of the crystal in the high, blue silence of the stratosphere. We have followed its long, swaying descent through the gray nebula of the clouds. We have seen the gentle collisions, the embraces of the aggregates, and the slow drift toward the earth. But now, we must stop the motion. Imagine that we can pause the storm. With a gentle gesture of the mind, we freeze the air itself. The wind stops howling. The falling snow hangs suspended in mid-air, a billion white statues floating in the void. We are going to reach out and pluck a single crystal from the sky. We will place it gently on the sleeve of a dark wool coat, a black velvet pillow, or a cold stone. We are going to look at it not as weather, but as art. We are entering the museum of the nanoscopic. Welcome to the architecture of cold. Here, in the stillness, we discover that the chaos of the storm is built from the most rigid, perfect order the universe can produce. We are looking at the sacred geometry of water. The stellar dendrite. The specimen before us is the most famous of all winter's creations. It is the icon of the season, the shape cut from paper by children in classrooms, the symbol etched into glass ornaments. Science calls it the stellar dendrite. Stellar meaning star. Dendrite meaning tree. Look closely at its center. It began, as we know, with that first simple hexagon, the tiny plate of ice we saw in Chapter 1. But as it fell through the humid layers of the cloud, something magnificent happened. It began to hunger. The corners of a hexagon stick out further into the air than the flat sides. Because they reach further, they are the first to encounter new water molecules. They are the pioneers. And so, the growth happens at the corners. From each of the 6 points of the central plate, an arm begins to extend. Reach, and freeze. Reach, and freeze. These arms are the primary branches of the tree. They grow outwards, symmetrical and strong, racing away from the center. But the atmosphere is not uniform. As the crystal falls, it hits a patch of slightly more humid air, or a pocket of slightly colder temperature. The crystal reacts instantly. From the sides of the 6 main arms, smaller arms begin to shoot out. These are the side branches. They shoot out at exactly 60 degrees, honoring the sacred geometry of the original seed. And then, if the crystal is large enough and the journey is long enough, those side branches will sprout their own tiny branches. This is a fractal. It is a pattern that repeats itself at smaller and smaller scales. It is a fern made of ice. It is a galaxy made of water. Trace the lines of the stellar dendrite with your eyes. It is a map of perfect balance. If a branch on the left side grows long, the branch on the right side grows long to match it. Why? Because the crystal is so small that the conditions on one side are almost identical to the conditions on the other. They are experiencing the same microscopic weather at the same nanosecond. But look closer. It is transparent, yet it appears white. This is a trick of the light. The ice is clear, but the complex lattice of ridges, pits, and facets scatters the light in every direction, confusing the eye into seeing white. It is a ghost structure, made of captured light and frozen water. The stellar dendrite is the showman of the snow world. It is large, complex, and fragile. It forms only when the humidity is high and the temperature is just right, usually around 5 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 15 Celsius. It is a Goldilocks creation. It is a cathedral built without hands. It has no mortar, no nails, no blueprints. It is built by the simple laws of atomic attraction. It is a testament to the fact that beauty is the default setting of the universe when it is left alone. No two alike. We have all heard the phrase since childhood, no two snowflakes are alike. It sounds like a romantic exaggeration, a fairy tale told to make us feel special. But here, in the cold logic of the architecture, we find that it is a mathematical certainty. To understand why, we must look at the path of the crystal. A snowflake is not just a shape, it is a history record. It is a physical diary of its journey through the sky. Imagine the path of a single flake. It starts at 20,000 feet. It falls. At 19,000 feet, it hits a dry patch of air. Growth slows. The edges become sharp. At 18,500 feet, a gust of wind blows it sideways into a wet, humid cloud. Growth explodes. Broad, fern-like arms shoot out. At 17,000 feet, it drops into a warmer layer. The tips of the arms melt slightly, becoming rounded. At 15,000 feet, it refreezes instantly, creating a rim of clear ice. Every second of its descent, the temperature and humidity are changing. And every change is recorded in the growth of the crystal. The snowflake is the map of its own fall. Now, consider the probability. For two snowflakes to be exactly alike, down to the molecular level, they would have to fall from the exact same height, at the exact same time, following the exact same path, hitting the exact same pockets of air, experiencing the exact same gusts of wind, for the entire hour-long journey. In a turbulent atmosphere, this is impossible. Even two crystals that start side by side will be separated by the wind. One will go left, one will go right. One will grow a long arm, the other will grow a short plate. Their paths diverge, and thus, their shapes diverge. This is the profound lesson of the snow. Uniqueness is not a choice, it is a consequence of experience. Look at the billions of flakes suspended in our frozen moment. It is an ocean of individuality. An infinite library where no book is ever written twice. Some are lopsided, battered by the wind, the survivors. Some are perfectly symmetrical, the lucky ones. Some are encrusted with frozen droplets, the rimed crystals that passed through fog. Some are broken fragments, the veterans of collision. But even the broken ones are unique in their breakage. It is a staggering thought. Since the dawn of the earth, countless quadrillions of snowflakes have fallen. Enough to cover the continents in miles of ice. And yet, the one resting on your sleeve right now has never existed before, and it will never exist again. It is a transient masterpiece. It exists for this brief moment of observation, and soon, it will melt. The water will return to the puddle, the river, the ocean. The structure will be lost forever. This impermanence makes the beauty even more piercing. It is a performance for an audience of one. It is nature saying, "Look at what I can do. Just for you. Just for now." The diamond dust. Not all snow is complex. Not all snow is a fern or a star. Sometimes, the architecture of cold prefers minimalism. We must turn our gaze to the coldest, clearest skies. We leave the heavy, gray storm clouds behind and travel to the bitter nights of the Arctic, or the dead of winter in the high plains. Here, the temperature drops to bone-cracking levels, 10, 20, 30 degrees below zero. The air here is too dry to support the growth of the elaborate stellar dendrites. There is not enough water vapor to build the great arms of the fern. Here, the snow strips back to its essence. It falls as diamond dust. These are not flakes in the traditional sense. They are tiny, microscopic prisms. Some are simple hexagonal plates, flat and smooth as a mirror. Some are hexagonal columns, looking like tiny pencils made of glass. They are so small that they don't really fall, they float. They hang in the air like glitter suspended in syrup. If you walk through a field of diamond dust, you might not even realize it is snowing. You don't feel them land on your face. You don't see them piling up on your boots. But look at the light. Because these crystals are simple prisms, flat surfaces and sharp angles, they act like millions of tiny mirrors. When the sun hangs low in the sky, or when the moon is bright, the diamond dust catches the light. It sparkles. The air itself seems to shimmer. It looks as if someone has thrown a handful of glitter into the atmosphere. This is the source of the sun pillar, that vertical beam of light you sometimes see extending above the setting sun on a freezing day. It is the light reflecting off millions of falling, flat hexagonal plates, all aligned by the drag of the air. It is the source of the halo, the ring around the moon. The diamond dust is the minimalist architecture of winter. It is the Bauhaus of the snow world. Clean lines. Sharp angles. Pure function. It teaches us that beauty does not always require complexity. Sometimes, the most breathtaking sight is the simplest, a single ray of light, caught by a single facet of ice, flashing for a microsecond before disappearing. The Silent Museum. Let us step back now. Let us unfreeze time. The wind picks up again. The suspended statues begin to move. The stellar dendrites resume their spinning fall. The diamond dust resumes its shimmering drift. The infinite variety of shapes continues its descent toward the earth. We have seen the structure. We have seen the blueprint. We know now that the white blanket covering the ground is not a uniform mass of white stuff. It is a pile of jewels. It is a mountain of stars. It is a chaotic heap of perfect order. As the snow continues to fall, it begins to cover the ground. And as it covers the ground, it changes the world in another way. It doesn't just change how the world looks, it changes how the world sounds. The intricate, open arms of the dendrites, which we have just admired, serve a second purpose. They are not just beautiful, they are traps. They are traps for sound waves. We are ready to listen. We are ready to hear the silence. But for now, take one last look at the crystal on your sleeve. The 6 arms. The fractal branches. The history written in ice. Breathe on it gently. Watch the edges round. Watch the structure collapse into a single, perfect drop of water. It is gone. But look up. A billion more are coming. The loom never stops. The architecture is infinite. Chapter 4, The Great Silencing. We have watched the snow fall. We have examined the intricate, crystalline jewels that make up the storm. We have seen the visual transformation of the world from a landscape of color and sharp edges to a landscape of soft, rolling white. But the most profound impact of snow is not visual. It is auditory. Close your eyes for a moment. In the waking world, our ears are constantly under siege. The hum of traffic, the drone of electronics, the chatter of voices, the distant wail of sirens. We live in an age of noise. Sound waves bounce off our concrete buildings, our glass windows, and our paved streets, echoing and amplifying, creating a chaotic web of frequency that keeps the brain in a state of low-level alarm. But tonight, the snow has come to save us from the noise. We are entering the chapter of the Great Silencing. This is the moment when the volume knob of the planet is turned down, slowly, steadily, until the needle rests on 0. The acoustic foam. To understand this silence, we must return to the microscopic architecture we studied in the previous chapter. Remember the stellar dendrite? Remember the fern-like arms, the branching structures, the vast, open spaces within the crystal lattice? When these crystals pile up on the ground, they do not pack together tightly like bricks. They tumble. They land askew. They create a chaotic, fluffy pile structure. Science tells us that fresh, uncompressed snow is composed of up to 90% air. Only 10% is actual ice. This structure, a delicate lattice of ice suspending a massive amount of air, is nature's perfect acoustic foam. It is remarkably similar to the soundproofing panels you might find in a high-end recording studio. Let us visualize a sound wave. Imagine the noise of a car engine or a barking dog as a ripple of energy moving through the air. In a normal city landscape, this wave travels until it hits a hard surface, a brick wall or a sidewalk. Because the surface is dense and rigid, the wave cannot enter. It bounces off. It reflects. It stays in the air, traveling to your ear. This is what makes the world sound bright and sharp. Now, imagine that same sound wave traveling over a field of fresh snow. The wave hits the surface of the white blanket. But this surface is not hard. It is porous. It is full of billions of tiny tunnels, caves, and pockets of air located between the interlocking arms of the snowflakes. The sound wave enters these tunnels. It tries to bounce, but it strikes a crystal of ice. It deflects, goes deeper into the snowpack, strikes another crystal, and deflects again. Bounce, deflect, absorb. Bounce, deflect, absorb. The sound wave is trapped. It is forced to navigate a labyrinth of ice from which there is no escape. The energy of the sound is slowly dissipated. Friction transforms the acoustic energy into a microscopic amount of heat. The sound does not bounce back to the air. It dies a quiet death deep within the drift. Scientific measurements show that fresh, fluffy snow can absorb more than 60% of sound energy. It acts specifically on the higher frequencies, the tires hissing, the metal clanking, the shrill voices. These are the sounds of stress. The snow swallows them. The lower frequencies, the rumble of the earth, the deep thrum of the wind, are allowed to remain, but they are softened. This is why the silence of snow feels heavy. It is not just the absence of noise, it is the active suppression of it. The snow is a dampener. It is a velvet cloth thrown over the drum of the world. As the snow deepens, the effect increases. An inch is a muffler. A foot is a mute button. The world is being wrapped in a thick, white quilt. The physics of the atmosphere are conspiring to grant you peace. The muffled city. Let us walk out into this transformed world. Leave the safety of your room and step into the visualization of a city or a town in the grip of a heavy snowfall. It is night. The streetlights are glowing with a hazy, amber halo. The first thing you notice is the change in the road. Yesterday, this street was a canyon of noise. Tires slapped against wet asphalt. Engines revved. Horns echoed off the buildings. Tonight, the road is gone. It has been erased by 6 inches of powder. Watch a car approaching in the distance. Usually, you would hear it blocks away. But tonight, it is a ghost. It glides. The tires do not slap, they crunch softly. It is a rhythmic, satisfying sound. Crump, crump, crump. This is the sound of compression. It is the sound of the rubber tire packing the crystals together. As the car passes, the engine noise is swallowed by the snowbanks on either side of the road. The vehicle moves in a bubble of quiet. Once it passes, the silence rushes back in to fill the void instantly. Walk further. Listen to your own footsteps. In the summer, your shoes click on the pavement. In the autumn, they rustle in the dry leaves. But in the winter, the footstep is a dull thud. It is a sound that does not travel. It stays right under your boot. Step, hush. Step, hush. Notice the acoustic horizon. This is the distance at which you can hear the world. On a clear, crisp day, the acoustic horizon is miles wide, you can hear a train whistle from the next town. But in the snow, the horizon shrinks. The falling flakes themselves act as a curtain, scattering sound waves in the air before they can even reach the ground. The world sounds small. It sounds intimate. You can only hear what is within 100 feet of you. The rest of the world has been cut off. The highway in the distance. Gone. The city center. Gone. The airport. Gone. There is a profound psychological comfort in this. The muffled city demands nothing from you. The sensory input has been reduced to the bare minimum. The visual clutter is covered in white. The auditory clutter is buried in foam. You are walking through a sensory deprivation tank the size of a city. The anxiety of fear of missing out evaporates, because it feels like there is nothing out there to miss. The world has stopped turning. The gears have ground to a halt. You pass a house. The windows are dark, or perhaps lit by the soft flicker of a television. The snow on the roof is a thick hat, insulating the people inside. You cannot hear them. They cannot hear you. You are alone, but you are not lonely. You are held in the privacy of the storm. This is the solitude of the snow. It is a privacy that is rare in our connected age. For a few hours, while the flakes fall, you are unreachable. The snow has severed the lines of the world, and in that severance, there is freedom. The sound of falling. Finally, let us stop walking. Let us stand perfectly still under a street lamp, or in the middle of a dark field, and listen to the snow itself. We say that snow is silent. But is it? If you listen closely, truly closely, past the noise of your own breathing, past the beating of your own heart, you can hear the voice of the snowfall. It is a sound so faint that it borders on imagination. It is a whisper of a whisper. Musicians and acousticians call this pink noise. Unlike white noise, which is harsh and static-like, pink noise is deeper, balanced, and cascading. It is the sound of wind in the trees, or a gentle river. The falling snow creates a unique variation of this. It is the friction of billions of crystals brushing against the air as they fall. It is the sound of the infinite descent we watched earlier. Hush. It is a continuous, steady exhale. And then, there is the sound of impact. When a snowflake lands, it is a microscopic collision. A tiny piece of ice hitting the ground. One flake makes no sound that the human ear can register. But a billion flakes landing every second. That creates a texture in the air. It is a soft, metallic tinkling, almost like the sound of sand pouring onto silk. There was a biologist named A.D. Hasselton who once lowered a hydrophone, an underwater microphone, into a lake during a snowstorm. He discovered that underneath the water, the falling snow was incredibly loud. As the flakes hit the water, they trapped tiny bubbles of air, which screamed at a high pitch as they dissolved. The fish were listening to a symphony of impacts. But up here, in the air, the sound is dampened. We hear only the ghost of the impact. Focus on your hood or your hat. Listen to the individual flakes landing on the fabric near your ears. Tick, tick, tick. It is a dry, light sound. It is the sound of accumulation. It is the sound of time passing, second by second, flake by flake. This sound is hypnotic. It functions as a lullaby. The rhythm is random yet constant. It gives the brain something to focus on that requires no analysis. You do not need to interpret the sound of snow. It contains no language, no warning, no information. It is simply presence. Allow this sound of falling to wash over you. Imagine it filling your ears, displacing all the other sounds of the day. The arguments, the phone ringtones, the news reports, the traffic. They are all buried under the white noise. There is only the tick, tick, tick of the accumulation. The world is holding its breath. The snow is the finger pressed to the lips of the earth. Shoo! It is the great silencing. And as the silence deepens, you might notice something else. When the noise stops, the temperature seems to matter less. When the world is this quiet, you begin to feel a strange sense of warmth. You realize that the snow, cold as it is not just a silencer. It is a blanket. The acoustic foam is also a thermal quilt. The silence is preparing us for the warmth. The storm continues. The volume is at zero. The city is asleep. And you, standing in the center of the hush, are finally, truly, listening to the peace. Chapter 5, The Warmth Beneath the White. The silence has fallen. The city is muffled. The noise of the world has been trapped in the acoustic foam of the drifts. But as we stand in this quiet, white landscape, we must confront a great paradox of the winter season. We are taught to fear the snow as an agent of cold. We associate it with the biting wind, the numbness of fingers, and the dangerous drop in temperature that threatens life. But nature loves a contradiction. In the architecture of slumber, snow is not a freezer, it is a furnace. It is not a shroud of death, it is a blanket of life. We are entering the chapter of insulation. We are going to look beneath the surface to discover the secret warmth that hides under the white crust. We are going to learn how the earth tucks itself in. The igloo effect. To understand the warmth of snow, we must return one last time to the single crystal. Remember the structure we examined? The fern-like arms, the vast empty spaces, the lattice of ice that traps air. We learned that this structure traps sound. But it traps something else even more precious, heat. Air is a terrible conductor of heat. It is lazy. It does not like to move energy from one place to another. When air is allowed to circulate freely, like the wind, it steals heat rapidly. It strips the warmth from your skin and carries it away into the sky. But when air is trapped, when it is held stationary in billions of tiny pockets, it becomes one of the most powerful insulators in the known universe. This is the secret of the down feather. It is the secret of the wool sweater. And it is the secret of the snowpack. Think of a layer of fresh snow as a duvet made of ice. It seems impossible, ice is cold, how can it keep you warm? But the ice is merely the scaffolding. The substance doing the work is the still, silent air caught between the crystals. Let us visualize the igloo effect. Imagine a traveler in the high Arctic, caught in a blizzard. The wind is howling at 40 degrees below zero. The air is lethal. To survive, the traveler does not look for wood or fire, they look to the snow. They cut blocks of hard-packed snow. They stack them in a spiral, creating a dome. They crawl inside and seal the entrance with a block of ice. Outside, the storm rages. The wind chill drops the temperature to a point where skin freezes in seconds. But inside the dome, a miracle occurs. The wind is blocked. The air inside the igloo becomes still. The body heat of the traveler radiates out, but it does not escape. It hits the walls of the snow. The snow reflects the infrared energy back into the room. The walls begin to glaze over with a thin layer of ice, sealing the pores, making the seal even tighter. Slowly, the temperature rises. It climbs from sub-zero to freezing, and then above freezing. With nothing but the heat of a single candle, or a single human body, the interior of a snow cave can reach a comfortable temperature where one could sleep without a heavy coat. This is the physics of the blanket. When you pull a heavy quilt over your shoulders at night, the quilt does not generate heat. You generate the heat. The quilt simply asks the heat to stay. The earth generates heat, too. The ground beneath our feet is holding on to the warmth of the past summer. It is holding on to the geothermal energy of the planet's core. Without snow, the winter air would strip this heat away, freezing the ground deep down, turning the soil into a block of iron. But the snow falls. The quilt is laid. The heat of the earth rises up and meets the snow. The snow says, "Stay." Visualize this thermal barrier. It is a line in the physics of the world. Above the snow line, the violence of the wind, the biting cold, the chaos. Below the snow line, the stillness, the trapped air, the preservation of warmth. It is a sanctuary. It is a white room where the temperature is always stable, always safe. The sleeping seed. Now, let us lower our consciousness deeper. Let us sink through the snowpack, past the trapped air pockets, and touch the surface of the soil. Here lies the garden. In the summer, this place was a riot of color and activity. Roots pushed, flowers bloomed, insects marched. But now, the surface is dark and still. It is the time of the great sleep. Buried just a few inches beneath the soil are the dreamers. The tulip bulbs. The daffodil bulbs. The seeds of the wildflowers. The intricate root systems of the perennial grasses. They are delicate things. They are filled with water. If the ground were to freeze solid, a hard freeze that penetrates deep into the earth, the water inside their cells would expand, crystallizing into sharp shards of ice that would rupture their cell walls. They would die. They are praying for snow. The farmer knows this. The gardener knows this. A winter without snow is a killing winter. The cold air lays bare the earth, stripping the heat, driving the frost line deeper and deeper like a cold dagger plunging into the soil. But when the snow comes early and stays late, the garden is safe. Visualize the bulb of a tulip, nestled in the cool, dark earth. Above it lies 2 feet of white powder. The air temperature above the snow might be 20 degrees below zero. But down here, next to the bulb, the temperature hovers gently at exactly 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 degrees Celsius. It is cool, yes. But it is not killing cold. It is a refrigerator, not a freezer. This specific temperature is crucial. It triggers a biological process called vernalization. The seed needs this chill. It needs a period of dormancy to reset its internal clock. It needs to sleep in order to gather the energy for the spring push. The snow acts as the guardian of this sleep. It muffles the confusion of the fluctuating weather above. In January, there might be a sudden, false spring, a warm day where the sun shines bright. Without snow, the bulb might be tricked. It might wake up too early, sending a tender green shoot up, only to be killed by the frost returning the next day. The snow prevents this mistake. The snow keeps the ground cool and consistent. It tells the seed, not yet. Sleep longer. It is not time. The heavy white blanket blocks the light. It blocks the false signals. It holds the seed in a state of suspended animation. Imagine the peace of that existence. To be buried deep, protected from the wind, protected from the changing whims of the weather. To have only one task, to wait. The energy of the plant withdraws from the leaves, down the stem, into the core. It condenses. It simplifies. It waits in the dark, warm earth, humming with the potential of life, safe under the weight of the winter. The snow is the mother that tucks the earth in, smoothing the sheets, whispering, "Rest now. I will wake you when the sun returns." The subnivean zone. But the space beneath the snow is not just for sleeping plants. If we look closely, there is a secret world here, a hidden kingdom that remains active all winter long. Ecologists call it the subnivean zone. Sub meaning under. Nivis meaning snow. It is the space between the ground and the bottom of the snowpack. How does this space exist? It is formed by the warmth of the earth itself. As the ground releases its slow, steady heat, it sublimates the bottom layer of the snow. The ice crystals turn directly into vapor, leaving behind a small gap, a crawl space. Over time, this vapor rises and freezes again on the roof of the tunnel, creating a ceiling of jagged, diamond-like crystals. This is the crystal palace of the winter mouse. Visualize a meadow covered in 3 feet of snow. To the hawk flying above, it looks like a lifeless, barren wasteland. But if the hawk had X-ray vision, it would see a bustling city of tunnels running just above the soil. Voles, shrews, and mice live here. For them, the winter is not a time of terror, it is a time of security. In the summer, they are exposed. They have to run through the tall grass, constantly watching the sky for the shadow of the owl or the hawk. Danger is everywhere. But in the winter, the snow builds them a fortress. Imagine being one of these small creatures. You are moving through a tunnel with walls of white and a floor of grass. The roof above you is a translucent arch of ice. The light in the subnivean zone is magical. The sunlight from the world above filters down through 3 feet of snow. By the time it reaches your tunnel, the red and yellow wavelengths have been absorbed. Only the blue light remains. It is a world bathed in a soft, bioluminescent indigo glow. It is dim, quiet, and impossibly peaceful. The wind does not reach here. The blizzard that is raging above, the storm that is blinding drivers and freezing power lines, is nothing but a rumor down here. You cannot feel the wind chill. The air is still and humid. It is a climate-controlled sanctuary. The mouse moves along its familiar paths, finding seeds and dried berries left over from the autumn. It meets a neighbor. They pass in the blue twilight. Life continues. This layer is so effective that some animals actually breed in the dead of winter, raising their tiny, pink families in nests lined with dried grass, deep within the warmth of the drift. Think of the coziness of this image. While the world above is screaming with cold, there is a nursery below. Tiny hearts are beating. Tiny lungs are breathing the clean, filtered air of the snowpack. The subnivean zone teaches us that what looks like a barrier is often a bridge. The snow blocks the movement of the large animals, the deer flounder, the wolves struggle. But for the small, the meek, the snow opens up a new dimension of freedom. It gives them the run of the land. They are the keepers of the secret fire. They are the witnesses to the warmth that survives in the dark. As we drift toward sleep ourselves, let us take comfort in this knowledge. Even in the deepest winter, even when the world looks frozen and dead, there is warmth. The igloo holds the heat of the traveler. The soil holds the heat of the earth. The tunnel holds the heat of the life. The cold is only skin deep. Beneath the white crust, the heart of the world is still beating, warm and steady. You, too, are under the blanket now. You are in your own subnivean zone. The sheets and comforters around you are the snowpack. The room is the tunnel. You are protected from the winds of the world. Let the warmth radiate back to you. Let the igloo effect settle in. The air next to your skin is warm. The storm is outside. You are inside. You are the sleeping seed, safe in the dark. You are the traveler, safe in the cave. You are the life that rests beneath the silence. The snow is falling above you, adding layer upon layer of protection. Let it fall. Let it build. Let it keep you warm. The cold cannot touch you here. You are held in the thermal embrace of the winter night. And it is warm. It is so very warm. Chapter 6, The Sculptor of Landscapes. We emerge from the hidden warmth of the subnivean tunnels. We leave the sleeping seeds and the dreaming roots in their dark, protected nurseries. We rise up through the layers of the snowpack, past the trapped air and the silent crystals, until we break the surface once more. We return to the open air. The storm has evolved. The heavy, vertical fall of the flakes has shifted. The air is moving now. A breeze has picked up, not a violent gale, but a steady, persistent current that flows across the land like a river of invisible water. In the previous chapters, we looked at the snow as a material, a crystal, a blanket, a silencer. But now, we must look at it as a medium. We must look at what happens when this material meets the wind. We are entering the studio of the winter. We are about to witness the work of the sculptor of landscapes. The wind as artist. In the waking world, we often think of the wind as a destroyer. We think of it stripping leaves from trees, knocking down signs, and stealing heat. But in the architecture of snow, the wind is a creator. It is an artist with a very specific aesthetic. The wind hates a straight line. Look at the world that humans build. We are obsessed with the grid. We build square houses with sharp corners. We pave straight roads. We erect fences with rigid angles. We create a world of geometry, hard, distinct, and separate. The wind finds this offensive. And so, with the snow as its clay, it begins the work of softening. Visualize the wind approaching a sharp corner, perhaps the edge of a brick wall or the post of a fence. As the current of air hits the obstacle, it splits. It accelerates around the side, creating a tiny vacuum, a pocket of low pressure on the leeward side. In fluid dynamics, this is called the wake. The snow crystals, carried by the wind, are pulled into this wake. They swirl gently into the protected pocket of air and settle. Swirl, and settle. Swirl, and settle. One by one, billion by billion, they fill the empty space. They pile up against the hard edge. Slowly, the sharp corner disappears. It is replaced by a gentle, sloping curve. This is the signature of the wind, the curve. Look at a car parked on the street. Before the snow, it is a collection of metal angles, mirrors, bumpers, antennas. But after a night of drifting snow, the car is gone. In its place is a soft, white mound. The wind has fared the edges. It has created an aerodynamic shape, a teardrop of white that allows the air to flow over it without resistance. It creates a streamline. This process is hypnotic to watch. Imagine a stone in a field. The wind hits the stone and vaults over it. As the snow falls, it creates a long, tapering tail behind the stone. It looks like a comet made of ice. The wind is smoothing the world. It is sanding down the rough edges of reality. It is taking the jagged, aggressive shapes of the day and turning them into the rolling, feminine shapes of the night. It creates a landscape of pillows. Look at the roof of a house. The snow does not just sit flat, it curls over the edge of the gutters. It rounds the peak of the roof. It turns the chimney into a soft mushroom cap. There is a profound peace in these shapes. Our eyes are tired of sharp angles. Sharp angles demand attention, they signal danger or boundary. But curves invite the eye to slide. They offer no resistance. To look at a snow-sculpted landscape is to let your vision glide effortlessly from one point to another, never snagging, never stopping. The sculptor is patient. It does not use a chisel, it uses a brush of air. It applies the snow layer by microscopic layer, thousands of times a second, until the hard world is gone, and only the soft world remains. The dune of ice. As the wind continues to blow across open spaces, a frozen lake, a long driveway, a sleeping farm field, we witness the formation of the drift. These are the dunes of ice. They move and behave almost exactly like the sand dunes of the Sahara, but they are made of a material that is lighter, stickier, and more transient. Let us examine the physics of this movement. Scientists call it saltation. It is a beautiful word for a simple dance. The wind is not strong enough to lift the snow crystals high into the sky, but it is strong enough to pick them up for a moment. A crystal is lifted. It flies forward a few feet. It falls back to the surface. Bounce. When it lands, it strikes another crystal, knocking it into the air. Splash. Now that second crystal flies forward. Imagine millions of crystals playing leapfrog across the surface of the field. The ground appears to be smoking. A low, white mist races across the top of the snowpack. This is the snow in motion. When this moving river of white meets an obstacle, a row of bushes, a slight rise in the ground, it slows down. And when it slows down, it drops its cargo. The drift begins to rise. It starts as a small ripple. Then a wave. Then a hill. The shape of a snowdrift is a masterpiece of mathematics. The windward side, the side facing the wind, is a long, gentle slope. It is a ramp. The snow races up this ramp, reaches the crest, and then spills over the other side. The leeward side is steep. It is the slip face. Watch the crest of the drift. This is often called the cornice. The snow builds out over the edge, defying gravity. Because the crystals possess that unique ability to lock arms, the embrace we spoke of earlier, they can hang in midair. They form a delicate, curling lip that hangs over the drop, like a frozen wave about to break. These cornices are the most elegant lines in nature. They are razor-sharp at the edge, yet impossibly soft in texture. They are white calligraphy written against the gray sky. The drift is not a static object, it is a creature that crawls. Throughout the night, the drift migrates. It moves across the road. It creeps up the side of the barn. It buries the swing set. It is a slow-motion invasion of white. But it is a gentle invasion. It does not crush, it encompasses. It surrounds. To lie in the lee of a drift is to be in a place of absolute shelter. The drift takes the brunt of the wind. It forces the air up and over. Behind the wall of the dune, the air is still. The snow is softest here. It is loose, powdery, and deep. Visualize these dunes stretching across the landscape. They turn a flat, boring field into a rolling sea of white waves. The moonlight catches the ridges, creating shadows of deep blue and violet. The world has become an ocean, frozen in the moment of a swell. Rise, and fall. Rise, and fall. The landscape is breathing. The drifts are the heaving chest of the sleeping earth. The erasure of boundaries. Finally, the sculptor achieves its greatest masterpiece. It is not a shape, but a lack of shape. It is the erasure. Snow is the great unifier. Think about how we define our world during the warmer months. We define it by boundaries. This is the road. This is the sidewalk. This is the grass. This is my property. This is your property. We paint lines on the asphalt. We build curbs. We plant hedges. We are obsessed with separation. We need to know where things end and where things begin. But the snow does not care about our lines. As the drifts deepen and the wind sculpts the curves, the boundaries begin to vanish. Watch the street in front of your house. First, the white paint of the center line disappears. Then, the gray of the asphalt disappears. Then, the curb, the hard line that separates the car from the pedestrian, is buried. Finally, the sidewalk and the lawn merge into one continuous surface. The road is no longer a road. The lawn is no longer a lawn. It is all just the land. This is a profound visual relief for the brain. Our eyes are constantly scanning for edges, for changes in texture, for warnings. But when the boundaries are erased, the eye can rest. There is no here versus there. There is only the continuous, unbroken white. Imagine looking out over a neighborhood where the fences have been buried. The separation between yards is gone. The fragmented world has been made whole again. It is a restoration of unity. Philosophically, this invites the mind to let go of its own boundaries. In the waking state, we are defined by our edges. We are defined by where we stop and the world begins. We defend our ego. We defend our space. But sleep is an act of erasure. To sleep, you must let the boundary between you and the room dissolve. You must let the boundary between thought and dream disappear. The snow teaches us how to do this. Look at how the snowdrift merges the tree into the ground. You cannot tell where the roots end and the snow begins. It is a seamless transition. Look at how the snow merges the sky into the earth. In a whiteout, or even in a heavy gray snowfall, the horizon line vanishes. You cannot tell where the ground stops and the sky starts. It is one vast, encompassing void of soft light. This is the whiteout of the mind. Allow yourself to visualize this erasure happening to your own thoughts. The worry about tomorrow, covered in white. The regret about yesterday, smoothed over by the wind. The sharp lists of things to do, buried under a drift. The landscape of your mind is being sculpted. The sharp peaks of anxiety are being rounded into soft hills. The deep valleys of sadness are being filled in. The wind is blowing across your consciousness, gently moving the thoughts like crystals. Bounce and settle. Bounce and settle. The topography of your stress is being flattened. The complexity is being simplified. Soon, there will be no distinct thoughts left. There will be no road of logic to follow. There will be no fence of defense to maintain. There will only be the dune. The soft, rolling, endless dune of the dream. The world is one piece. You are one piece. The edges are gone. The sculptor has finished the work. The statue is complete, and the statue is a landscape of pure, undulating peace. The wind slows down. The drifting snow settles into its final resting place for the night. The curve is established. The boundary is erased. The white sheet has been pulled up over the head of the world. It is smooth. It is cool. It is unbroken. Rest your eyes on the white. There is nothing to distinguish. There is nothing to separate. There is only the drift. And the drift is carrying you. Chapter 7, The Prism of Morning. The wind has died down. The sculptor has laid down its tools. The long night of the storm, with its heavy, muffling clouds and its work of erasure, has finally come to an end. We open the eyes of our imagination to a changed world. The gray ceiling of the sky has torn open, revealing a vast, crystalline blue dome. The sun has returned. But this is not the warm, yellow sun of summer that bakes the earth and drives the cicadas to sing. This is the white sun of winter. It is a cold star, hanging low on the southern horizon, casting long, elegant shadows across the newly sculpted drifts. We have explored the substance of snow, now we must explore its relationship with the most fundamental force in the universe, light. We are entering the prism of morning. In this chapter, we discover that the snow is not merely a white paint covering the world. It is a mirror. It is a lens. It is a machine designed to capture the sky and bring it down to the ground. The albedo effect. Let us step out into this blindingly bright morning. The first thing you notice is the intensity of the light. It makes you squint. It feels as if there are two suns, one in the sky, and one beneath your feet. In the language of planetary science, this phenomenon is measured by a value called albedo. Albedo comes from the Latin word albus, meaning white. It is a measure of how much sunlight a surface reflects back into space. Consider the world before the snow fell. The asphalt roads, the pine forests, the dark soil of the fields, these surfaces have a low albedo. They are hungry for heat. They absorb the sunlight, drinking it in, holding it close. When light hits a dark forest, it disappears. But fresh snow is the most reflective natural surface on Earth. It has an albedo of nearly 90%. This means that for every 10 photons of light that travel 93 million miles from the sun to reach a snowbank, 9 of them are immediately sent bouncing back toward the heavens. Visualize this interaction. A ray of sunlight strikes a snow crystal. It does not stop. It enters the ice, bounces off the internal facets, exits, strikes the neighbor crystal, bounces again, and is finally launched upwards. The ground is rejecting the darkness. This creates a unique optical environment known as global illumination. In a snow-covered landscape, light does not just come from above, it comes from everywhere. It comes from the left, from the right, and from below. Look at the shadows of the trees. In the summer, a shadow is a place of darkness. It is a black silhouette where the light cannot reach. But look at the shadow of a tree on fresh snow. It is not black. It is blue. It is luminous. Why? Because even in the shadow, light is bouncing off the surrounding snowdrifts and filling in the darkness. The snow acts as a fill light in a photographer's studio. It softens the contrast. It washes away the harshness. There are no secrets in a snowscape. The light finds its way into every crevice, every hollow, every hidden space under the porch. This brightness has a profound effect on the mind. It is a form of light therapy. It wakes up the pineal gland, which we met in the chapter on sleep, and tells it that the day has begun. But it is a gentle waking. It is a clean waking. There is a purity to this light that cleanses the visual palette. The clutter of color is gone. The red of the brick, the green of the grass, the brown of the mud, all are hidden. There is only the blue of the sky and the white of the reflection. It is a binary world. Light and ice. Source and reflection. Breathe in the brightness. Feel it entering your eyes, not as a strain, but as a clarification. It is scrubbing the visual cortex clean. The world feels new because, in a way, it is. It has been resurfaced. It has been whitewashed. The sun dog. As we gaze across this glowing field, we look toward the sun itself. And there, suspended in the air, we see a phenomenon that looks like magic, but is pure geometry. We see a halo. A perfect, rainbow-colored ring circling the sun. And on either side of the ring, bright spots of light flare like guardians. These are the parhelia. The mock suns. The sun dogs. To understand this celestial jewelry, we must remember the diamond dust we spoke of in Chapter 3. Remember the tiny, flat, hexagonal plates drifting in the bitter cold air. On a calm morning after a storm, the air is filled with these microscopic prisms. They are slowly drifting down, drifting flat like dinner plates or leaves falling through water. When the sunlight hits these falling plates, it enters the side of the hexagon. Now, we must appreciate the precision of the universe. The angle of the ice crystal is exactly 60 degrees. When light passes through a prism with a 60-degree angle, it is bent, or refracted, by exactly 22 degrees. Not 21 degrees. Not 23 degrees. 22 degrees. This is a universal constant. It is as reliable as gravity. Because of this bending, the light that reaches your eye is shifted. It forms a ring exactly 22 degrees away from the sun. Visualize the path of the photon. It travels through the vacuum of space, enters the atmosphere, strikes a tiny crystal of frozen water floating over your town, bends, and hits your retina. It separates into its colors. The inner edge of the sun dog is red, the color that bends the least. The outer edge fades into blue, the color that bends the most. It looks like a portal opening in the sky. It looks like a gate to another world. In ancient times, people saw sundogs as omens. They thought they were signs of great change, or the eyes of gods watching the earth. And in a way, they were right. They are a sign of the atmosphere's stillness. For a sundog to form, the air must be incredibly calm. If there were wind, the crystals would tumble chaotically, and the light would scatter. But because the crystals are all aligned, floating flat and steady, they act as a single, massive lens. It is a testament to the peace of the morning. Stand in the presence of this halo. It is a cold fire. It does not warm your skin, but it warms your sense of wonder. It reminds you that the air you breathe is not empty space, it is a jewelry box filled with diamonds, waiting for the light to unlock them. The sundog hangs there, silent and shimmering. It is a transient cathedral, built of light and ice, existing only for as long as you stand at the correct angle to see it. If you take one step to the left, it might shift. It is a personal revelation. The blue hour. The day passes quickly in the winter. The arc of the sun is low and short. The blinding brightness of the albedo effect begins to fade as the sun dips below the horizon. We are entering the transition. We are entering the most beautiful and melancholic time of the winter day, the blue hour. In French, it is called l'heure bleue. It is that specific window of time, perhaps only 20 or 30 minutes, just after sunset, but before true darkness falls. The physics of this light is specific to snow. When the sun goes down, the direct rays are gone. The world is lit only by the scattered light from the upper atmosphere. This light is blue. This is Rayleigh scattering, the same reason the sky is blue. Usually, the ground absorbs this weak light, and the world turns gray and muddy. But the snow reflects it perfectly. The snow takes the faint indigo light of the upper sky and amplifies it. Look at the landscape now. The white drifts are no longer white. They are a deep, glowing, electric blue. It is a color that feels like it is vibrating. It is not a paint applied to the surface, it feels like the light is coming from inside the snow. It is a bioluminescent ocean. This is the color of sleep. Blue is the color that slows the heart rate. It is the color of the parasympathetic nervous system. When we look at this deep, snowy indigo, the brain receives a chemical signal: cool down, slow down, rest. The shadows in the blue hour lose their edges. The contrast of the bright morning is gone. Everything is soft. Everything is merging. The trees are black silhouettes against a cobalt sky. The snow is a sapphire blanket. The air itself seems to be tinted blue. This is the time of the hush. If the acoustic silence of the snow was heavy during the day, it becomes absolute now. The birds have stopped singing. The squirrels have returned to their nests. The cars have parked for the night. The blue hour is the bridge between the energy of the light and the peace of the dark. Imagine yourself standing by a window, looking out at this blue world. The glass is cold against your forehead. Inside, the room is warm and golden. Outside, the world is cold and blue. There is a sadness in this light, but it is a sweet sadness. It is the feeling of a story ending. It is the feeling of the curtain dropping. It is the feeling of the last note of a cello fading into silence. The blue deepens. It turns from azure to navy. From navy to midnight. The crystals are no longer acting as prisms for the sun, they are preparing to reflect the moon. The albedo effect works for moonlight, too. Later tonight, the moon will rise, and the world will turn silver. But for now, in this delicate transition, we rest in the blue. We have seen the brilliance. We have seen the halo. Now, we watch the color drain away, replaced by the soothing, monochromatic dark. The prism of morning has done its work. It has shown us the hidden colors of the white snow. It has proven that white is not the absence of color, but the presence of all colors combined. And now, as the blue fades into black, the snow remains. It is waiting for the stars. The light is gone. The warmth is inside. The silence is outside. You are ready to turn away from the window. You are ready to let the eyes rest. The show is over. The prism is put away. The world is dark. The world is quiet. The world is yours. Chapter 8, The Library of Deep Time. We leave the fleeting world of the winter garden. We leave the snow that falls on the city streets, the snow that melts in the spring, the snow that is here for a season and then gone. We are traveling now to the ends of the earth. We are going to the high latitudes and the high altitudes, to Antarctica, to Greenland, to the silent peaks of the Himalayas. Here, the snow does not melt. Here, the winter does not end. We are entering the cathedral of permanence. We are standing before the glacier. To look at a glacier is to look at time itself frozen in physical form. It is the history of the world written in layers of ice. If the snowflake falling on your sleeve is a single word, the glacier is the entire library. It is a place of immense weight, immense age, and immense silence. The weight of history. Let us witness the birth of this giant. It begins exactly the same way as the snow in your backyard, with a single, delicate flake falling from a gray sky. It lands on the top of a mountain. But unlike its cousins in the valley, this flake does not find warmth. The summer comes, but the air remains freezing. The flake does not melt. It waits. Then, the next winter comes. New snow falls on top of the old snow. This is the beginning of the Great Compression. In the first year, the snow is fluffy and light, full of air, just like the acoustic foam we studied earlier. But as the years turn into decades, and the decades into centuries, the weight of the new snow begins to crush the old snow buried beneath it. Visualize this slow, heavy metamorphosis. The delicate, fern-like arms of the stellar dendrites begin to break. The intricate stars are crushed. The air is squeezed out. The fluffy crystals are forced to become round, hard grains of ice. Science calls this intermediate stage firn. It looks like wet sugar. It is the transition between the cloud and the rock. But the snow keeps falling. Layer upon layer. 1,000 feet upon 1,000 feet. The weight becomes unimaginable. The pressure at the bottom of the stack is crushing. Under this pressure, the firn granules are forced to fuse together. The individual boundaries of the crystals disappear. They merge into a single, solid mass. This is glacial ice. It is no longer white. White is the color of reflection, of air, of scattering. Glacial ice has squeezed out the air. It has become a dense, solid block. And because it is so dense, it interacts with light in a new way. It absorbs the red. It absorbs the yellow. It allows only the blue light to escape. Look at the face of a glacier. It is not the bright white of the morning snow, it is a deep, glowing turquoise. It is a blue so intense, so electric, that it looks artificial. But it is the most natural color on Earth. It is the color of density. It is the color of pressure. When you look at that blue, you are looking at the weight of history. That blue ice at the bottom of the glacier might have fallen as snow when the pyramids were being built in Egypt. It might have fallen when woolly mammoths walked across the tundra. It has been buried, squeezed, and held in the dark for millennia, slowly traveling down the mountain. It is a humbling perspective. Our lives are fast, frantic, and brief. The glacier is slow, heavy, and eternal. It does not care about our schedules. It operates on geologic time. To stand next to a wall of blue ice is to feel the presence of the ancients. It is a solid river of time, holding the past in a suspended state of perfection. The air of ancients. But the ice is not completely solid. In the process of compression, something precious was trapped. As the snowflakes were crushed into firn, and the firn into ice, tiny pockets of air were sealed off. They were cut off from the atmosphere. They were entombed in the ice. These are the bubbles of the ancients. They are microscopic time capsules. The air inside these bubbles is not the air of today. It is a sample of the Earth's atmosphere from the exact moment the snow fell, 10,000 or 100,000 years ago. Imagine holding a core of ice drilled from deep within Antarctica. You can see the tiny bubbles suspended in the glass-like cylinder. Inside that bubble is the breath of the Pleistocene era. It contains the dust from ancient volcanoes that have long since gone dormant. It contains the pollen of flowers that no longer exist. It contains the carbon dioxide levels of a world before engines, before factories, before humanity burned the forests. It is the purest archive we possess. Scientists read these bubbles like pages in a book. They can tell us what the weather was like on a Tuesday in the year 50,000 BC. They can taste the climate of the past. But there is a more poetic experience to be had here. Sometimes, when a piece of glacial ice breaks off into the ocean, a phenomenon called calving, it melts. As it melts, the walls of these tiny bubbles dissolve. The pressurized air inside is released. Snap. Pop. Crackle. If you were to take a piece of this ancient ice and drop it into a glass of water, it would fizz. It creates a sound known as Bergy seltzer. Listen to that sound. Pop. Pop. That is not just bubbles bursting. That is the sound of ancient air escaping its prison. You are hearing the atmosphere of the Ice Age being released into your living room. You are listening to a wind that blew when the world was wild and new. It is a release of tension that has been held for eons. Think of the patience of that air. It has waited in the dark, under miles of ice, moving slowly, slowly, slowly toward the sea, just for this moment of release. It is a return to the cycle. The breath of the past joins the breath of the present. This teaches us that nothing is truly lost. The history of the world is not gone, it is just stored. It is folded into the ice, waiting to be read, waiting to be released. The glacier remembers everything. It is the hard drive of the planet, keeping a backup copy of the sky. The slowest river. We tend to think of ice as a solid, like rock or steel. We think of it as unmoving. But in the world of the glacier, ice is a fluid. It is a river. It is just a very, very slow river. The sheer weight of the ice sheet creates a strange phenomenon. The ice at the bottom, under the crushing pressure of the miles of snow above it, becomes plastic. It becomes slippery. It begins to deform and flow. Driven by gravity, the entire mountain of ice begins to slide downhill. It moves at a pace that is imperceptible to the human eye. If you stare at it for an hour, it is stone. If you stare at it for a day, it is stone. But if you were to place a stake in the ice and come back a year later, you would see that it has moved 50, 100, or 1,000 feet down the valley. It is the slowest river. Visualize this movement. It is a river of relentless power. A water river flows around obstacles, a glacier flows through them. It carves the earth. The massive weight of the ice acts like sandpaper. It grinds the mountains down. It gouges out valleys. It polishes the bedrock until it shines. The U-shaped valleys of Yosemite, the fjords of Norway, the lakes of Canada, these are the footprints of the slow river. Listen to the sound of the flow. It is not the rushing babble of a brook. It is a deep, resonant groan. Creak. Groan. Boom. These are the sounds of stress. As the river of ice flows over uneven ground, it cracks. Massive fissures called crevasses open up on the surface. These are the stretch marks of the glacier. Deep inside the ice, the sound is low and bass-heavy. It is the earth humming. It is the sound of a mountain moving. There is a profound peace in surrendering to this speed. In our modern world, we are obsessed with instant. Instant messages, instant coffee, instant gratification. We panic if we are delayed by 5 minutes. The glacier laughs at our 5 minutes. The glacier operates on a timeline where a century is a heartbeat. It reminds us that there is a rhythm to the world that is far slower and far more powerful than our own. It tells us that there is no need to rush. Gravity is doing the work. The river is flowing. We will get there eventually. Imagine yourself lying on the surface of this great river of ice. You are dressed warmly, protected from the cold. You are looking up at the stars. Beneath you, the ice is miles thick. Beneath you, the history of the world is locked in silence. And beneath you, the river is moving. You are being carried, imperceptibly, toward the ocean. You cannot feel the movement, but you know it is happening. You are part of a majestic, slow-motion slide. You are riding the back of a frozen leviathan. This is the ultimate surrender of sleep. To sleep is to trust the river. It is to lie down and let the current take you. You do not need to paddle. You do not need to steer. The current knows the way. The glacier flows towards the sea. It may take 10,000 years to get there, but it never doubts its destination. At the end of the journey, the ice meets the water. The glacier calves. Great blocks of blue ice break off and fall into the ocean with a thunderous roar, a final salute to the land. They become icebergs. They float away, carried by the currents of the sea. And then, slowly, they melt. The ancient ice turns back into fresh water. The water evaporates into the sky. It becomes a cloud. It becomes a flake. And it falls again, to begin the cycle anew. But here, in the center of the glacier, high in the mountains, that end is far away. Here, there is only the stillness. There is only the weight. There is only the beautiful, crushing blue silence. You are safe here. You are anchored by the weight of the ages. The trivial worries of your day cannot survive in this landscape. They are too light. They blow away in the wind. Only what is heavy remains. Rest your mind on the ice. Feel the cool, solid stability of the deep time. The world is old. The world is large. And you are held by it. Sleep now, in the library of the ancients. The books are closed. The river is slow. The night is long. Chapter 9, The Kingdom of the Trees. We descend from the high, frozen peaks of the glaciers. We leave behind the blue ice of the ancients and the treeless expanse of the tundra. We follow the slope of the land downward, until the white horizon is broken by the first dark, vertical lines of life. We are entering the boreal. We are entering the silent, cathedral-like atmosphere of the winter forest. There is a specific feeling to the woods in winter that exists nowhere else on earth. In the summer, the forest is a place of rustling. Leaves chatter in the wind, birds call to one another, insects buzz, and twigs snap underfoot. It is a place of friction and noise. But in the winter, the forest is a place of suspension. It is a holding of breath. The snow does not just cover the forest floor, it transforms the very architecture of the trees. It changes the way they stand. It changes the way they move. It turns a chaotic wilderness into a disciplined, black and white sanctuary. Let us walk into this kingdom. The air here smells different. It smells of cold resin, pine needles, and clean, damp wood. The silence is not empty, it is expectant. The heavy bow. First, we meet the guardians of the winter, the conifers. The pine, the spruce, the fir, and the hemlock. These trees do not sleep as deeply as their deciduous cousins. They keep their needles. They stay green. And because they keep their foliage, they must bear the burden of the snow. Look at a large spruce tree standing at the edge of a clearing. It is no longer the sharp, triangular silhouette it was in July. It has been softened. It has been sculpted. The snow has piled up on its branches, creating massive, heavy pillows of white. This is a study in surrender. The anatomy of an evergreen tree is designed specifically for this moment. The branches are not rigid bars of iron, they are elastic. They are living springs. As the snow accumulates, inch by inch, pound by pound, the branch does not fight the weight. It does not try to stay horizontal. It bows. Watch the shape of the bough. It slopes downward, creating a steep angle. This is a survival strategy. By bending, the tree sheds the excess weight. It allows the heaviest snow to slide off, leaving just enough to insulate the needles without snapping the wood. But often, the snow sticks. It clings to the rough texture of the needles. And so, the tree simply holds it. Visualize the patience required for this act. A single branch may be holding 50 pounds of ice and snow. It is pulled down, curved into a deep arch, its tip touching the snowbank below. It is locked in a state of high tension. Yet, there is no struggle. The tree accepts the burden. It stands perfectly still, wrapped in a white shawl, waiting for the thaw that is months away. There is a profound beauty in this heaviness. The trees look like monks in white robes, heads bowed in prayer, standing in rows across the mountainside. They are the definition of endurance. Walk closer to one of these laden branches. The snow is not just a pile, it is a roof. Underneath the heavy, white pillow, there is a dry, protected space. If you were a small bird, a chickadee or a kinglet, this is where you would spend the night. Deep inside the spruce, near the trunk, the snow acts as a windbreak. The pillows on the outer branches seal off the interior of the tree, creating a dark, windless silo. The tree protects itself, and in doing so, it protects the life of the forest. Touch the branch gently. You can feel the tension in the wood. It is alive. It is waiting to spring back up. But for now, it is content to be heavy. It is content to be part of the sculpture. This image teaches us the lesson of the evergreen. To survive the winter, one must be flexible. One must be willing to bow. If the branch were rigid, it would break. But because it bends, it survives. The black and white world. We move deeper into the woods, passing from the evergreen grove into the hardwood forest. Here, the landscape changes dramatically. The green is gone. The smell of resin fades. We are entering the world of the birch, the aspen, the oak, and the maple. This is the black and white world. In the summer, this place is a confusion of color. Green leaves, brown trunks, yellow flowers, blue sky. It is a visual cacophony. But winter is the season of reduction. The snow acts as a blank page, covering the chaotic floor of ferns and fallen logs. The trees have dropped their leaves, stripping themselves down to their skeletons. What remains is pure calligraphy. Look at a stand of birch trees against the snow. It is high-contrast art. The trunks are strokes of white ink outlined in black charcoal. The branches are fine, delicate lines etched against the gray sky. There is no clutter here. There is only line and form. Visualize the negative space. In art, negative space is the empty space around the subject. In the winter forest, the snow emphasizes the space between the trees. You can see further than you can in summer. The secrets of the forest are revealed. You can see the lay of the land, the rise of the hill, the curve of the stream, all things that were hidden by the foliage of July. The stillness here is different from the evergreen grove. The evergreens are holding a burden, the hardwoods are sleeping. They have withdrawn their sap deep into their roots, below the frost line. They are in a state of suspended animation. Their branches are bare and brittle looking, rattling softly in the wind. Click, clack. But they are not dead. They are merely waiting. Focus on the bark of a birch tree. It is peeling in paper-thin curls. Against the stark white of the snow, the texture of the bark pops out. You can see every knot, every scar, every patch of lichen. The winter light, reflecting off the snow, illuminates the tree from below, highlighting details you would never notice in the dim light of summer. This is the clarity of winter. By stripping away the decoration, the leaves, the season reveals the structure. It shows us the bones of the forest. Walking through this black and white landscape feels like walking through a drawing. It is quiet, minimal, and starkly beautiful. It calms the mind because there is less to process. There are no distracting colors. There is just the vertical rhythm of the trunks, tree, space, tree, space. It is a visual lullaby. Vertical lines are associated with stillness and stability. The forest is a standing army of peace. The drop. As we stand perfectly still in this graphic landscape, the silence is suddenly broken. It is not a loud noise. It is a soft, muffled explosion. Whomp. We turn our heads. A few yards away, a branch on a pine tree has suddenly released its burden. This is the drop. It is the only dynamic movement in a static world. Why does it happen? Perhaps a ray of sunlight found its way through the clouds and warmed the bark just enough to melt the microscopic layer of ice holding the snow to the wood. Perhaps a slight breeze disturbed the balance. Or perhaps, simply, the gravity finally won. Watch the mechanics of the drop. A massive clump of snow, perhaps weighing 10 pounds, detaches from the branch. It falls as a cohesive block for a split second, then disintegrates in the air. It hits the branch below it. Poof! The impact shatters the snow into a cloud of white powder. It looks like a smoke bomb going off in the forest. But the most beautiful part is the reaction of the tree. The moment the weight is gone, the branch springs up. Boing! It has been held down for weeks, curved under the tension. Now, liberated, it snaps back to its original position. It oscillates up and down, vibrating with relief. Up, down, up, down. It shakes off the remaining dust. It is light again. This movement triggers a chain reaction. The falling snow hits the branch below, knocking its snow off. That snow hits the next branch. Whomp, whomp, whomp. A cascade of white powder falls down the height of the tree, creating a vertical waterfall of snow. For a moment, the tree is hidden in a mist of diamond dust. The air sparkles as the crystals float in the sunbeams. And then, just as quickly as it started, it is over. The snow settles on the ground. The mist clears. The branch stops swaying. The silence returns. But the forest feels different now. That one tree stands a little taller. It has shrugged off its winter coat. It has stretched its limbs. There is a deep satisfaction in watching the drop. It is a moment of release. It is the feeling of taking off a heavy backpack after a long hike. It reminds us that the burdens we carry are not permanent. The snow accumulates, yes. It gets heavy, yes. It bends us down, yes. But eventually, the sun comes out. Eventually, the balance tips. Eventually, we get to let go. And when we do, we spring back. We find our original shape. The resilience of the wood is never lost, it is just stored as potential energy, waiting for the moment of release. Stand in the clearing and wait for the next one. Listen. The forest is quiet. Plump. There it is. Another release. Another moment of lightness. The air in the forest is filled with these tiny, microscopic events. Snow falling from a twig. Snow sliding off a piece of bark. It is the slow, rhythmic unloading of the winter. The sun is moving across the sky. The shadows of the trunks are lengthening, turning into long blue bars across the white paper of the snow. The kingdom of the trees is closing its gates for the night. The temperature is dropping. The sap is still. The needles are coated in frost. We have seen the strength of the bough. We have seen the beauty of the bare lines. We have heard the soft thunder of the release. We leave the forest now. We walk back out of the tree line, leaving the guardians to their silent watch. They will stand there all night, holding the snow, waiting for the spring, teaching us how to endure with grace. The woods are dark. The snow is deep. The silence is absolute. You are walking out, lighter than you walked in. You have learned the lesson of the drop. You are ready to let go. You are ready to spring back. But first, you must rest. Chapter 10, The Gentle Return. The wheel of the year turns slowly. It grinds on the axle of the solstice, hesitates, and then begins its long, inevitable rotation back toward the light. We have spent a long time in the kingdom of the white silence. We have walked the frozen halls of the glacier, sat in the dark tunnels of the subnivean zone, and stood under the heavy, bowed branches of the pine forest. We have learned the lessons of the cold, the lesson of preservation, the lesson of stillness, the lesson of endurance. But nothing in nature is meant to last forever. To hold on to the winter past its time would be to embrace death. Life requires movement. Life requires flow. And so, we arrive at the final chapter of our chronicle. We are here to witness the great unfreezing. We are here to watch the solid world surrender its armor and become liquid again. We are entering the season of the gentle return. The weeping icicle. The change begins not on the ground, but in the sky. The sun, which for months has been a low, weak traveler on the southern horizon, begins to climb. It ascends the staircase of the zodiac, day by day, gaining altitude. As it climbs, its character changes. It sheds the cold, white, distant light of the albedo effect. It recovers its gold. It recovers its heat. The rays of the sun strike the roof of the house. They strike the branch of the tree. They strike the face of the cliff. And deep inside the molecular lattice of the ice, that rigid, six-sided hexagon we marveled at in the beginning, a vibration begins. The atoms begin to dance. They are remembering the freedom they had when they were vapor. They are shaking off the chains of the crystal. Let us focus our attention on a single icicle hanging from the eaves of a roof. It is a spear of crystal, clear as glass, forged by the freeze-thaw cycles of January. It looks permanent. It looks like a diamond dagger. But under the touch of the March sun, it begins to weep. Watch the tip of the icicle. The solid ice is turning into water. But it does not rush. Gravity pulls the water down the side of the ice spear, gathering at the very point. A drop begins to form. It grows slowly. It swells. It hangs there, defying gravity, held by the tension of its own skin. Look at the world through that drop. It is a lens. It catches the entire landscape, the trees, the sky, the receding snow, and flips it upside down, curving it into a perfect, contained sphere of liquid light. It glitters with a brilliance that rivals the diamond dust. Swell. Swell. Release. Plink. The drop falls. It strikes the puddle below. Rings of ripples spread out, concentric circles expanding into the world, announcing the change. Then, silence. The icicle waits. Another drop gathers. Swell. Release. plink. This rhythm is the metronome of the spring. It is a slow, steady clock counting down the remaining hours of the winter. It is not a sad sound. We call it weeping, but the icicle is not crying in grief, it is crying in relief. It is the release of tension. The rigid form is letting go. To become water is to become free. Ice is stuck, water is a traveler. Ice is hard, water is yielding. The icicle is surrendering its identity as a solid object to rejoin the great flow of the world. Visualize the entire landscape weeping in this way. The south-facing rocks are dripping. The branches of the trees are glistening. The snowbanks are sweating. It is a collective softening. The sharp edges of the winter architecture are blurring. The crisp definition of the drift is sagging. The world is relaxing its shoulders. The honeycomb and the scent. As the melt accelerates, the snow itself changes character. It is no longer the powder of December. It is no longer the hard crust of February. It becomes corn snow. The heat of the sun works on the snowpack, separating the individual crystals into coarse, round granules. They look like kernels of white corn or beads of silica. The snow loses its cohesion. It loses its ability to hold air. The acoustic foam is collapsing. If you were to walk across a field of melting snow, the sound is different. It is no longer the dry squeak crunch of cold powder. It is a wet, soft squelch. It is the sound of saturation. Look closely at the surface of an old snowbank. It is no longer smooth. It is pitted. It looks like a honeycomb. The sun has drilled millions of tiny shafts into the white surface, searching for the earth below. And then, the first patch of ground appears. It usually happens around the base of a large tree. The dark bark of the tree absorbs the heat of the sun and radiates it outwards, melting a perfect circle of snow around the trunk. This is called a tree well. In this circle, we see the earth for the first time in months. It is dark. It is matted. It is wet. But oh, the smell. Breathe in deeply. Can you smell it? It is the scent of geosmin. It is the scent of wet soil, rotting leaves, and awakening bacteria. To the human nose, this is one of the most primal and evocative scents in existence. It triggers a deep, ancestral memory of survival. It means the famine is over. It means the harvest will come again. Compared to the sterile, clean, metallic scent of the winter air, this smell is rich and complex. It smells like life. This is the breath of the soil. The earth has been holding its breath under the blanket for 100 days. Now, through these widening circles around the trees, it exhales. Exhale. The damp, heavy air rises, mixing with the cool breeze. It is the perfume of the return. It signals to the sleeping seeds, the ones we visited in the darkness of chapter 5, that the wait is over. The blanket is being pulled back. The sun is knocking on the door. Feeding the earth. Where does the water go? The snow does not just disappear. It transforms. The massive drifts, the dunes of ice, the heavy pillows on the pine boughs, they are all liquid now. They are a reservoir that has been unlocked. This is the great gift of the snow to the land. Rain is often violent. A summer thunderstorm dumps water quickly. It hits the hard, dry ground and runs off, causing flash floods, eroding the soil, rushing to the river before the plants can drink it. But snowmelt is the slow release. Because the melting process is gradual, governed by the rising and setting of the sun, pausing at night when the temperature drops back below freezing, the water is released in a gentle, steady trickle. It does not rush off the surface. It sinks. Visualize the water moving downwards. It slips between the granules of the soil. It follows the tiny tunnels left by worms and roots. It travels deep, deep down, past the frost line, into the subsoil. This is the deep hydration. This is the recharging of the aquifer. The earth is like a sponge that has been dry for a season. The snowmelt saturates it completely. It fills the spaces between the clay and the sand. It surrounds the dormant roots of the great oak trees, plunging 50 feet down. The roots sense the water. They begin to swell. The hydraulic pressure builds inside the tree. This is what drives the sap. The water from the melting snow enters the roots, mixes with the stored sugars, and begins the long climb up the trunk against gravity. It is the lifeblood of the forest, resurrected by the thaw. Without the slow, heavy blanket of winter snow, the spring would be dry. The flowers would not have the strength to push through. The rivers would run low in August. The snow is the battery that powers the spring. Every drop that falls from the weeping icicle is a deposit in the bank account of life. Watch the rivulets forming on the surface. Tiny, clear veins of water running over the mud, finding the path of least resistance. They join together. Two rivulets become a trickle. Two trickles become a stream. The sound of the landscape changes. The silence of the snow is replaced by the music of water. Burble, splash, murmur. It is a gentle, chaotic, happy sound. It is the sound of movement returning to a still world. The water is singing as it travels. It is washing the stones. It is polishing the gravel. It is carrying the dead leaves of last autumn away to make room for the new green. The cycle completes. We follow the water. From the drip of the icicle to the puddle. From the puddle to the groundwater. From the groundwater to the stream. From the stream to the river. From the river to the ocean. The snowflake has completed its journey. Remember where we started? In Chapter 1, we stood in the high, blue atmosphere, watching a molecule of water vapor attach itself to a speck of dust. We watched it freeze. We watched it fall. We watched it rest. Now, it has returned to the source. The drop of water that was once a stellar dendrite now flows into the vast, heaving body of the sea. It mixes with the salt. It is rocked by the tides. It is warmed by the sun. And one day, perhaps tomorrow, perhaps next year, that molecule of water will feel the heat of the sun on the surface of the ocean. It will vibrate. It will break its bonds. It will turn into vapor. It will rise. It will float up on the warm updrafts, leaving the heavy earth behind. It will climb past the birds, past the clouds, back into the silent, blue cathedral of the troposphere. And there, it will wait for the cold. It will wait for the dust. It will wait to become a snowflake once again. This is the promise of the circle. There is no end. There is only transformation. The snow is not gone, it has merely changed its clothes. It has put on the liquid mask of the river, or the invisible cloak of the vapor. but the essence remains. As we stand at the end of this book, looking out over the patch of melting snow and the emerging mud, we feel a sense of completion. The story has been told. The winter has done its work. The earth has rested. The noise has been silenced. The heat has been preserved. The roots have been watered. The mission is accomplished. You, too, have completed the journey. You have walked through the storm and come out the other side. You have let the snow cover your thoughts, quiet your mind, and cool your anger. Now, the snow is melting. But the peace remains. The peace of the winter is not dependent on the ice. It is a state of mind that you can carry with you into the spring. It is the knowledge that rest is productive. It is the knowledge that silence is necessary. It is the knowledge that beneath the surface, deep in the dark, life is always preparing to bloom. The sun is setting on our final chapter. The air is cool and damp. The sound of the dripping eaves slows down as the evening chill returns. Plink. Plink. The water is freezing again for the night. A thin, lace-like crust of ice forms over the puddles. The world pauses. It is time to sleep. You do not need to watch the snow anymore. It has melted into your dreams. You do not need to track the storm. It has passed. You do not need to hold up the sky. The earth will do it for you. Let the water flow. Let the seasons turn. Let the cycle spin. You are safe in the flow. You are part of the water. You are part of the sky. Drift away now. Float on the meltwater stream, down towards the warm, dark ocean of sleep. The current is slow. The water is soft. The night is here. Sleep. Sleep. Sleep.